clinical endocannabinoid deficiency, there was some interesting research from Stanford University going back to April of last year, 2017. Their research shows that the early onset of Alzheimer's and dementia is brought about by an endogenous cannabinoid deficiency. And here on this TV show, I was just mentioning that, perhaps the entire Alzheimer's situation, which currently affects 5.4 million Americans, cost our national healthcare system in excess of $225 billion. I mean, imagine if we just took 50 milligrams of CBD daily for people who are at risk for Alzheimer's disease, and they started getting on a regimen in their 40s and 50s, they might be able to overcome their challenges. Certainly there's some very interesting research I might get into a little bit later on, just talking about some of this. Another interesting concept in cannabis medicine is this entourage effect, and I did earlier mention all the different chemical compounds, all your cannabinoids, your terpenoids, flavonoids, plant waxes, chlorophyll, all acting synergistically, and this concept is called the entourage effect. Dr. Sanjay Gupta has a really nice 2 or 3 minute review that he did on CNN about this, so certainly we're quite excited about it. Now, another interesting, I don't even know kind of where to start with this sometimes, but of course, if you look at the law enforcement side of the government, the DEA, et cetera, of course, they'll tell you that cannabis, marijuana, hemp, et cetera, it's all a Schedule I federally controlled substance with no medicinal use. On the research side of the government, nothing could be further from the truth. This is illustrated by U.S. Government Patent 6630507. The research was started here in 1999 by a team that included Nobel Prize-winning laureate Dr. Julius Axelrod. This led to a patent in October of 2003 titled Cannabinoids as Antioxidants and Neuroprotectants. And here you find in the patent a wide range of potential benefits. On the antioxidant side, great potential benefit for all your what are called metabolic syndrome patients, those patients who go into the doctor, have their blood drawn, and you'll see all these what they call these inflammatory markers, just various tests that the doctor does. You find you've got inflammation here, there, wherever, and certainly inflammation being the root cause of all disease. But certainly here, benefit for your what are called metabolic syndrome patients, which might be your heart disease or cardiovascular risk, your diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, even certain types of cancer seem to fall into this category of just errors of the human's metabolic functions. And then on the neuroprotective side, great potential benefit for all your neurological diseases, your Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, PTSD, multiple sclerosis, and of course now we have a British pharmaceutical company here in the U.S., right here in California, based here, researching CBD to be used for epilepsy and epileptic seizure children. Certainly, we see that the U.S. government patent also mentions that non-psychoactive cannabinoids such as cannabidiol are particularly advantageous to use because they avoid the toxicity and the toxic-related issues of the psychoactive cannabinoids. So to give an example, especially for the new folks here, I'm very sensitive to THC, or fairly sensitive. I mean, if I have 3 to 5 milligrams of THC, I'd probably be snoozing here in the sage for the next 8, 10, 12 hours. But this morning, I took my 50 milligrams CBD, and I'm awake, alert, drove up from San Diego, and functioning quite well. So that kind of gives you an idea about the difference between CBD and certainly the psychoactive compounds. So, many people take 100, even 200 milligrams of CBD daily without any negative effect, and certainly we are very excited about the fact that it's very, very safe. Even clinical studies show you can take as much as 1,500 milligrams a day without any detrimental effect to your overall health. Just a couple of other interesting notes here for terms of, say, traumatic head injury. One of our pharma partners, Canna Life Sciences, actually has 2 license agreements from our NIH to develop and commercialize that patent I was just talking about, the 6630507 patent. And one of the uses and indications that Canna Life Sciences has is to develop a cannabinoid-based medicine to treat traumatic brain injury, or CTE. And so even at the U.S. government level, on the research side, the researchers believe that cannabinoids have a very good chance to help patients to overcome from this particular situation. Now, just to illustrate this, I want to show some research from UCLA Medical Center in Torrance, not too far from here, involved 446 young adults who unfortunately had suffered traumatic head injuries in automobile accidents. And of this group, of course, they're young adults here in California. Most of them had regular access to some type of cannabis product or another. But of this patient population, the ones who were the regular cannabis users were 80% more likely to survive a traumatic head injury, and this is presumably because their brain cells had that extra layer of neuroprotection, kind of like a second football helmet that's always with you. And anyway, this research was published in the American Surgeon, and certainly from this we feel that every young, at-risk athlete, your hockey players, your football players, etc., all should be taking, say 50 milligrams of non-psychoactive hemp-based CBD daily, just to help them, because kids are kids and they generally have, do things that most kids do, and they're at risk for injury, whatever that sport or activity is, and all the rest. Certainly, this is something we think that the dialogue that we can develop will hopefully be able to get us through the National Football League. CannaLife and our General Hemp group has recently brought on Nick Lowry, who's an ex-NFL football player, to help us with the dialogue with the National Football League. Nick, great kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs as well as the New York Jets. Nick will hopefully be inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. He's certainly up for vote this year, and if so, he'll be inducted in May in Ohio, and certainly it would be a great thing for us. But we really believe there's some great benefit, and potentially it'll be mandated someday that all these up-and-coming football players be on CBD just to help protect from the traumatic head injury situation. But going further, talking about recent trends in healthcare, and certainly if we look at what's going on around the globe here, we really see over time a tremendous increase in the occurrence of these neurological diseases. Mayo Clinic has just published a 30-year study. Their findings were out in June of 2016. Basically, the numbers show that for every 10 calendar years of life, men would have a 24% higher risk of developing Parkinson's disease. And certainly around the globe, we see other neurological disorders significantly on the rise as well. Huntington's disease, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, I got a nice article talking about this. There are many insults or assaults basically on our central nervous system. Generations ago, we didn't have the cell phones, and even though I'm not talking on the cell phone right now, our bodies are acting as antenna. We're picking up electromagnetic radiation. Our foods are all grown with agricultural chemicals. Basically, I think the statistics show 98% of all of us, our urine shows traces of glyphosate and other agricultural chemicals, etc. So, these are things that are happening in our environment, and certainly until we really haven't had a good way to protect ourselves before CBD, but certainly the neuroprotective, potentially neuroregenerative benefits gives us all a step up on what's going on in the world here. So certainly we'll look forward to some great research coming down the road. But just to continue here, Medical Marijuana Inc., basically first publicly traded company in the United States in this industrial hemp medical cannabis space going back to March of 2009. Our company created the first CBD hemp oil category, basically developed this pipeline from Europe, had the first hemp nutraceutical CBD products on U.S. and world markets, the first to bring a legal cannabis-based product into countries such as Brazil, Mexico, Puerto Rico, where we now have 12 product registrations. Paraguay was just recently added because we now have a medical or a pharmaceutical product that is accepted in the country of Paraguay. We're first in direct selling, and certainly we really believe that this whole hemp CBD industry would not have existed without our involvement. We've had to develop a special THC-free product, which was actually first developed for Mexico markets, but this product now would actually qualify for world anti-doping standards. The World Anti-Doping Agency now has given the thumbs up on cannabidiol onto CBD. Of course, many forms of CBD you buy in the marketplace today will all have a trace amount, at least, of THC, but we have a fully THC-free version that we're in process of actually getting the stamp of approval because our CBD does not metabolize into any but the other psychoactive components. Some other potential applications, one of our great researchers in the U.S. in the cannabis industry, Dr. Don Abrams, Chief of Hematology and Oncology at the University of California, San Francisco Medical Center. So Dr. Abrams is a very strong cannabis proponent. He's done 2 or 3 studies on cannabis showing benefit for things such as neuropathic pain. But of course, he sees a lot of post-chemotherapy patients. And here, these patients all have, a good number of challenges, and of course, he can prescribe several different medications, all with differing side effects, drug interactions, etc., or just prescribe medical cannabis to all these post-chemotherapy patients. And now that he's had a little bit more education on CBD, certainly, he's been very willing and interested in recommending and prescribing CBD to these patients. Again, here you've got patients with pain, depression, nausea, vomiting, loss of appetite, sleep disorders, and certainly he's seen some great benefit. And one other great product that we have here in Canaway is our detox bath soap. So anyone who's had some chemical exposure or chemotherapy, this is a fantastic product. I'm really, really excited about this. And around the globe, there's a huge amount of research going on, as I mentioned, just to name a few conditions here. Epilepsy, there's a wonderful bit of research going on in the U.S. by GW Pharmaceuticals on the epileptic seizure disorder. We've had some great research out of Mexico with Dr. Saul Garza and Dr. Carlos Aguirre. I'll get to those studies here in just a minute. Some interesting research in Israel about metabolic syndrome, but also about broken bones and osteoporosis. It does seem that CBD helps to improve nutrient absorption across the cell membrane, and some nice research from University of Aberdeen in the United Kingdom basically shows that CBD helps calcium absorption into the bone. So this has great potential benefit for your osteoporosis patients, broken bone healing, as well as those with rare bone disorders. And there are 2 up-and-coming early-stage pharma development companies here in the U.S. looking at these rare bone disorders with cannabinoids that are partnered with Israeli-based research groups. Parkinson's, some interesting research. We're just about to enter into a Parkinson's study, actually out of Brazil. I'll be going down in March of this year to finalize terms on this particular study. Now, Alzheimer's disease, down in San Diego, Dr. David Schubert announced some great research in the middle of the year 2016 showing that cannabinoids not only reduce inflammation in the brain, but also the buildup of a toxic protein called beta amyloid. And this toxic protein is basically the hallmark of the characteristic of your Alzheimer's disease patients. And it's interesting that a close cousin of beta amyloid is called tau protein, and this is what builds up in the head brains of the ex-NFL football players or those with traumatic head injury. And certainly, if we're going after chronic traumatic encephalopathy or the traumatic brain injury, we might also be finding a great benefit for Alzheimer's patients as well. Some interesting early-stage cancer, anti-cancer research at Dr. Sean McAllister, California Pacific Medical Center here in the San Francisco Bay Area, basically taking metastatic breast cancer cells, putting them in a petri dish, adding CBD, and watching how CBD causes a programmed cell death, what's called cellular apoptosis. And it's been interesting to see that as further research shows that what CBD is actually able to do is switch off a defective gene called the ID1 gene. Very, very interesting research. Similar research on leukemia cells has been done by Dr. Robert McCallum at University of South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina Medical Center, and basically found that CBD, again, when put into a petri dish of leukemia cells, also caused this programmed cell death. A little different mechanism of action. It seemed CBD was actually activating certain enzymatic pathways that allow the body to recognize these harmful cancer cells as true invaders and then start this cleanup or this cellular apoptosis process. But very interesting early stage research, and of course our Canada Life Sciences group looking at neuroprotection and traumatic head injury in terms of research. The next couple of slides, just some studies that we